He stood completely still at the bottom of the stairs. Then, my phone on the couch lit up. From the speaker, his voice came through on a slight audio delay, echoing in the dark basement.
I see your shoes.
Hello, loves. I hope you've got the doors locked, and you're not listening alone. Welcome to Madam Nightmare. My parents were at a concert in the city, and my younger brother was sleeping over at a friend's down the street, so I had the house to myself. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was sitting on the living room floor in my sweats, eating cold pizza and scrolling through TikTok, with the TV playing some mindless reality show in the background just for noise. Then came the knock. It wasn't a frantic, heavy pounding like someone running from a killer. It was 3 slow, rhythmic taps against the wood. I froze, the pizza halfway to my mouth. We live out in a quiet cul-de-sac where nothing happens, and nobody visits after 9 p.m. without texting first. I got up, leaving the living room light on, and walked down the dark entryway hall. I didn't say anything. I just leaned forward and pressed my eye against the brass peephole. There was a woman standing under our porch light. She looked to be in her late 20s, wearing a heavy winter coat that looked 2 sizes too big for her. She was shivering violently, her hands shoved deep into her pockets. Her forehead was pressed completely flat against the screen door, staring directly into the glass. "Hey," she whispered. Her voice was muffled by the weather stripping, but it sounded completely flat. Empty.
"Can you open up? My car broke down at the corner, and my phone died."
My hand hovered over the deadbolt, but my stomach dropped. Something about her posture was completely wrong. She wasn't looking at the door handle or looking around the porch for help. She was staring straight through the peephole, almost like she knew my eye was right on the other side of it. "I can't open the door," I called out, trying to sound firm. "But I have my phone right here. Tell me your insurance or a tow company, and I'll call them for you." The shivering stopped instantly. She went perfectly still.
"Just open the door,"
she said. The fake, trembling, helpless tone was completely gone. Her voice was lower now, heavy.
"It's cold."
"No," I said, my heart starting to thud against my ribs. "I'm calling the cops to come assist you. Hold on." I pulled away from the door and unlocked my phone to dial 911. As the line started ringing, I heard a wet, scraping sound against the wood of the front door. I looked back at the peephole. The woman had taken her hands out of her pockets. She didn't have a phone or a car key. She was holding a rusted, heavy pair of bolt cutters, and she was slowly, methodically dragging the sharp metal edge down the center of our front door, carving a deep, ragged line into the paint.
911. What is your emergency?
The operator's voice crackled through my phone. "There's someone on my porch with tools, trying to get into my house," I whispered, backing down the hallway into the kitchen. My voice was cracking. "She's carving up my door." Right as I said that, the scraping stopped. A second later, the motion sensor floodlight in our backyard snapped on, flooding our kitchen windows with harsh white light. I ducked down below the kitchen island, clutching my phone to my ear, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Through the glass panels of our back patio door, I heard it. Three slow, rhythmic taps against the glass. I raised my head just enough to look. The woman wasn't on the front porch anymore. She was standing on our back deck, her face pressed flat against the glass slider, her bloodshot eyes scanning the dark kitchen, and right behind her, stepping out from the shadow of our tool shed, were 2 massive men in dark hoodies, carrying a crowbar and a heavy canvas duffel bag. They weren't looking for a phone. They were waiting for her to get me to open the front door. "They're at the back door," I sobbed into the phone to the operator. "They're at the back door, please. They have tools." The sound of the back glass shattering open cut me off. I didn't think. I scrambled out from behind the island, bolted down the basement stairs, jammed the heavy wooden barricade bar into the brackets of the basement door, and hid in the crawl space behind the water heater until the police arrived 8 minutes later. The three of them fled into the woods behind our house before the cruisers pulled into the driveway. The cops never caught them, but the state troopers told my parents the scariest part the next morning. When they checked the front porch to look at the damage, they found that the woman hadn't just been randomly scratching the door with the bolt cutters. Carved deeply into the wood, right next to the deadbolt, was a single, massive letter. X. The troopers told us it's a marker local burglary rings use. It means confirmed alone. I was on the basement couch playing Warzone with my headset on when my phone started vibrating against my thigh. It was 11:42 p.m. I figured it was my mom checking in to make sure I'd locked the back door before she and my dad started driving back from the casino. I slid one side of my headphones off and answered without looking. "Yeah?"
Did you take the plastic wrap off the leftover lasagna?
The voice was weirdly quiet, flat. It sounded like it was coming from a speakerphone across a large, empty room. I frowned, staring at my monitor. "What? Mom, what are you talking about?"
The lasagna.
The voice repeated. It was definitely a guy's voice, trying to pitch itself up to sound like her, but failing completely.
I want to reheat it. Is it on the middle shelf?
My stomach did a violent, icy flip. I felt the hair on my arms stand straight up. "Who is this?" A horrible, wet clicking sound came through the receiver, like someone smacking their lips right against the microphone. Then the line went dead. I dropped the phone on the couch, my hands suddenly shaking so bad I could barely stand up. I pulled my headset completely off. The basement was dead silent, except for the low hum of the dehumidifier in the corner. Then I heard a heavy thud directly over my head. It was the specific, hollow sound of boots hitting the cheap linoleum in our kitchen. Someone was up there, and they had my mom's phone. I didn't scream. I couldn't even breathe. Panic is completely different than it looks in movies. It doesn't make you brave. It just turns your blood to liquid. My first instinct was to bolt up the basement stairs and run out the front door, but the stairs led straight into the kitchen hall. I'd walk right into him. I looked around the dark basement. The only other way out was the tiny rectangular awning window near the ceiling, the one we used to vent the dryer. I dragged our old wooden step stool over to the wall, trying to ignore the way the wood creaked under my weight. Upstairs, the boots moved out of the kitchen. They walked slowly down the hallway, right toward the basement door. I scrambled up the step stool, gripped the rusty latch of the awning window, and shoved it hard. It didn't budge. The frame had been painted shut over a decade ago. I slammed the heel of my palm against the glass, desperate to shatter it, but it was thick, wire-reinforced security glass. It didn't even crack. The door at the top of the basement stairs just opened. I froze on the stool, my heart hammering so violently against my ribs I thought it was going to burst. I pressed my back flat against the concrete foundation wall, staring into the dark at the top of the stairs. A flashlight beam cut through the dark, washing over the top steps. Then, I heard the boot start coming down. He wasn't rushing. He was taking his time, stepping on the outer edges of the wooden stairs to keep them from groaning. I didn't have a weapon. There was nothing near me but a heavy, dust-covered rust-covered ceramic vase my mom kept on a storage shelf. I grabbed it by the neck, my knuckles turning white, and stepped down off the stool into the deep shadow behind the water heater. The flashlight beam swept across the basement floor, illuminating the legs of the couch, my glowing PC monitor, and then the empty step stool. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I couldn't see the guy's face, just the dark silhouette of a massive canvas jacket and the glare of the light. He stood completely still for what felt like 3 years, just breathing. It was a horrible, raspy, congested sound. Then my phone, still sitting face up on the couch cushions, lit up. It started vibrating again. The guy didn't even look toward the couch. He just raised his own phone to his ear, his flashlight beam snapping directly onto the water heater where I was hiding. From the speaker of my phone across the room, his voice came through on a delay, echoing in the small basement.
I see your shoes.
I didn't think. I let out a generic, primal screech, lunged out from behind the water heater, and threw the heavy ceramic vase straight at his face. It smashed right into his shoulder, shattering into a million pieces. He stumbled backward into the stairs, dropping the flashlight. I didn't wait to see if he was down. I scrambled past him up the wooden stairs, my socks slipping on the smooth wood, and burst into the kitchen. I threw the front door open, sprinted across our lawn in my socks, and didn't stop running until I hit the bright fluorescent lights of the 7-Eleven down the highway. The cops took 20 minutes to get to my house. By the time they did, the guy was gone. They found my mom's phone sitting on our kitchen table. He hadn't stolen anything from the house. But when the state troopers checked the woods behind our property line, they found a small makeshift campsite where someone had been staying for at least a week. Right next to a rolled-up sleeping bag, they found a stack of 5 different notebooks. Every single page was filled with columns of timestamps, tracking the exact minutes my parents left the house, what time my sister got picked up for school, and exactly how long I spent downstairs playing video games with my headphones on. My parents were down in Eureka Springs for their anniversary, leaving me with the house for the weekend. Around midnight, I was sitting on the living room rug, organizing my shoe collection and listening to a podcast on my phone. The house was quiet, except for the bass of the audio. Then, I heard a metallic click from the front foyer. It was the very specific sound of a key sliding into a lock, turning, and the heavy deadbolt sliding back. I froze, a pair of Jordans gripped in my hands. My parents weren't supposed to be back until Sunday. I crept over to the hallway wall and peeked around the drywall into the entryway. The front door was wide open, letting in the damp midnight air. Standing in the yellow glow of the porch light was a woman. She looked about 60, wearing a faded, oversized floral dress that looked decades old. She didn't have a purse, a bag, or a coat. She just closed the door behind her, locked the deadbolt back into place with a loud snap, and kicked off her muddy loafers right onto our rug. She did it with the casual, automated muscle memory of someone coming home from a long day at work. "Mom?" I called out, my voice cracking slightly. The woman didn't jump. She slowly turned her head toward me. Her face was completely gaunt, her skin looking like yellow parchment paper, and her eyes were entirely glassy and out of focus. She looked right through me.
"The modern alignment is all wrong,"
she whispered. Her voice was raspy, like she hadn't used her vocal cords in years.
"Where's the coat rack? Did you move the old oak mirror?"
"Who the hell are you?" I backed up into the living room, grabbing my phone off the floor. "Get out of my house. I'm calling the police right now." She completely ignored me. She walked past me into the kitchen, her bare, dirty feet making a sticky slapping sound against the hardwood. She reached out and opened our refrigerator, staring into the fluorescent light.
There's no milk.
She muttered to herself, her fingers tracing the edge of the plastic shelves.
He always forgets the milk.
My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type my passcode into my phone. I dialed 911, pressing the phone to my ear while keeping my eyes locked on her.
911, what's your emergency?
The operator crackled. "There's a woman inside my house," I whispered, my chest tightening. "She just unlocked my front door and walked in. She's in my kitchen. She's unhinged." Right as I said that, the woman stopped touching the fridge. She froze. Slowly, she turned around and looked at the hallway leading to the bedrooms.
He's awake.
She whispered. Before I could say anything, she grabbed a heavy cast-iron skillet off our stove, gripped it by the handle, and started walking down the hallway toward my bedroom in a fast, aggressive stride. Panic hit me like a physical blow. I didn't try to stop her. I bolted out the front door, down the porch steps, and sprinted across the asphalt to the Henderson's house across the street. I pounded on their glass door until Mr. Henderson opened it in his boxers, holding a baseball bat. It took the county sheriff 15 minutes to get out to our road. Mr. Henderson and I waited on his porch, watching my house. The lights stayed on, but nothing moved. When the two deputies finally arrived, they went in with their guns drawn. They searched the kitchen, the living room, and the basement. Nothing. Then, one of the deputies called me into the back hallway. The door to my bedroom was wide open. The mattress had been completely flipped over, the sheets torn to shreds. And right in the center of my bare bedroom wall, the woman had used the sharp edge of the cast-iron skillet to gouge a deep, ragged hole straight through the drywall. Inside the wall cavity, sitting on top of the old wooden studs, was a rusted, decades-old metal lockbox that my family didn't even know existed. The lockbox was popped wide open. It was completely empty, except for a tiny pile of fresh, wet mud from the woman's bare feet. The cops ran the historical property deeds the next morning. A family had lived in our house back in the late 1980s. The mother had suffered a severe psychological break, claiming her husband was hiding things from her inside the structure of the house before she vanished completely in 1992. The photo on the old missing persons report matched the face of the woman in my kitchen perfectly, except the photo was 34 years old, and according to the state database, she had been declared legally dead in 1999. If you made it through tonight's collection, pass it on to someone you want to keep safe, or maybe someone special you'd like to haunt. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next nightmare. Until next time, loves, stay safe and sleep well.